Okay, there's been a whole lot of talk in the real estate industry leading up to this month of August 2024. So what's all the hoopla? What's the skinny? Well, I'll be clear and concise. However, based on my thumbnail illustrations, you may find it clear as mud. So here goes. In response to a couple of lawsuits in other states, the National Association of Realtors, as part of a settlement, has agreed upon two big changes going into effect by August 17th. Now, the settlement doesn't get fully approved by the courts until sometime in November. However, NAR agreed to implement these changes nationwide by August 17th of this year. Now, some MLSs have already started to enforce these changes just as at the first of the month, just like we did here in Charlotte. So here, it's already begun. And this video will likely pertain to just about everywhere in the country, so don't think it's just about Charlotte. Now, many consumers aren't even aware of these changes yet. However, those currently in the marketplace are getting enlightened, and well, let's just say there's a mix of emotions out there. So what are these changes? Well, first, I want to explain how we got here. Then, for the reasons why NAR settled. Next, I'll go over the two changes that NAR agreed upon in the settlement. And lastly, I will attempt to flesh out the confusion among the consumers in the way it's been marketed, how it could change the landscape of future real estate practice, and does it really help or hurt the consumer? So number one, how did we get here? Well, as I mentioned previously, this all stems from a lawsuit filed in Missouri, along with a few other copycat lawsuits, alleging that the National Association of Realtors and large real estate brokerages had conspired to inflate commissions or price fixing. Well, I can't speak for those particular cases, but I can tell you, as it pertains to the industry as a whole, that's just a big fat lie. Almost every service out there is tagged with what I would call fair market range of what those services cost. For example, a dog groomer, probably somewhere between $50 to $100. Is that price fixing? Let's say a financial planner will likely charge somewhere between 1% to 2% of the portfolio. Is that price fixing? How about attorneys? Oh, that's a good one. It's attorneys that are coming after us, but they are probably more guilty than anyone in terms of inflated fees. I mean, look how much celebrity attorneys charge. But I digress. In real estate, however, since that's what I know, a closing attorney will likely charge a seller fee of somewhere between $300 to $500. So is that price fixing? And when selling a home, a seller will likely hire a realtor for a fee of somewhere between 4.5% to 7% of the selling price. Doesn't sound like price fixing to me. It's a negotiable fee agreed upon between the seller and agent. And by the way, my name is Beau Ferguson. I've been a realtor for 18 years in the Charlotte area, so I think I can speak with somewhat authority on our industry environment. The traditional practice was to explain to the seller that a portion of that commission was to be shared with a fellow realtor who brought them a buyer. Well, if that's not communicated in a clear manner, then a seller might get a little surprised at the closing table that a portion of the proceeds are going to a real estate firm, another real estate firm that is, which could have been what happened in these cases. I don't know. However, it still doesn't change the full commission amount that the seller originally agreed upon. So, number two. So, why did NAR settle? But before I do that, let's talk about NAR for a second. For those that don't know, the National Association of Realtors was founded in the early 1900s because it was the Wild West out there and people were getting scammed and ripped off when buying real estate. So it was difficult for states to police the activity, so a trade organization was formed to work alongside with state regulators to advocate for the consumer and to help police unethical behavior. They provided tools for fellow realtors to cooperate amongst each other and mandated a code of ethics we had to abide by concerning the consumer and our fellow realtors. In other words, it was a really good entity that was needed and something an ethical real estate practitioner was proud to be a part of. So why did NAR settle in this lawsuit? Well, there are mixed feelings among my colleagues on their response to this, but the fact of the matter is, NAR did not believe there was any wrongdoing here. However, in this litigious society we live in, they decided to protect the million-plus realtor members nationwide from being further squeezed by money-hungry attorneys, attempting to bring further copycat lawsuits. It's a shame that pretty much what it came down to, but that's what it was. So number 3, okay, now the 2 big changes in our industry. The first change is that we as agents will no longer be posting in the MLS to our fellow colleagues the commission amount being offered to the buyer's agent. The belief, I think, behind this was that prior to the settlement, agents were possibly chasing after higher commissions. Well, let me just say that since the age of the internet, that's nearly impossible because consumers can see online what homes are for sale, and agents are not going to try to stop a consumer from seeing a home they want to see. It's just not going to happen. So this change does nothing but add chaos to our job because we now have to track down the listing agent by phone or text to see what and if a commission is being offered. This could take a while, especially among bad agents that don't seem to answer their phones. And what's more, it will likely hold up the showing process among buyers. Now I'll talk more about this later. Now change number 2, the second change is that a buyer must now sign a written buyer's agreement prior to ever touring their first home. The only exception to this is an open house. Now this agreement may look different among different companies, but it must follow the guidelines of the settlement agreement. One of those guidelines is that it must state that the compensation the buyer's agent is charging for their services, and it needs to be explained to that buyer that he or she is on the hook for that amount should part or all of the commission not come from another source. Unlike other states, North and South Carolina had buyer agency agreements in place for many years. So that's nothing new. However, consumers were not forced to sign them prior to their first tour. They had to sign them eventually, but not after their first tour or before their first tour. So these forms will likely have already gone through some state changes and will likely go through more changes in response to these changes. Number 4, okay. Let's talk about the confusion among the public as the way this has been marketed. Because commission fees are now being stricken from the MLS, there are those out there that seem to believe that the seller no longer has to pay the buyer's agent commission. Well, the fact of the matter is they never had to. It's just we as listing agents, with the seller's permission, were offering up a portion of the commission fee we charged them, and we were offering up to the buyer side in order to give them the most exposure to other agents who could possibly bring them a buyer. Now, I heard a popular podcaster say recently that these changes will bring about maybe decoupling of commissions, meaning seller will pay the seller's commission, buyer will pay the buyer's commission. And it could be that's where this is headed down the road at some point. But I disagree for now, especially because of the current landscape. We have record high home values, higher interest rates, poor economy, and first-time home buyers are struggling. to get loan approvals, much less buy anything. In fact, in all my years of real estate, I've never seen a time more difficult than right now for low to middle income people to purchase a home. So no, I don't see that happening for quite a long time. So my advice to you, Mr. Seller, is you'll be at a great competitive disadvantage by not agreeing to a commission cooperation. Okay? Now, number 5. There's always room for improvement in just about any industry, but I contend that these changes were a setback in ours. In the name of protection, it's less protection for a buyer. It possibly puts a greater burden on the buyers whom already are in a tough environment. In the name of transparency, the actual practice of it is, to me, less transparent. Buyers agents work very hard navigating and advocating for their clients, and they certainly aren't going to work for free. And this just adds more work to their plate. Good realtors add great value and are worth every penny. If you think we are overpaid, just ask yourself this. Why do 70% of people who get in the real estate business fall away in their first year? Trust me, most of us are underpaid. However, on a positive note, I do believe we will get on the other side of this, and at some point there will be a new norm. Meanwhile, I will continue to work hard for my buyers and sellers because I believe in the American dream. And I'd like to see you get your dream. That's why most of us do what we do. Ultimately, in the end, consumers need someone to advocate for them and guide them on what's usually the biggest purchase or sale of their life. And trust me, there's a lot of liability in what we do. But you know what? We want you to succeed. We want you to win. And we love sharing in that experience when you do win. Amen? By the way, if you know anyone interested in moving to the Charlotte, North Carolina area, I've got the best resource out there. And I'm not kidding. It's over 550 pages of content, live links, interactive maps, videos, etc. I'm telling you, it's robust. Just click the button below to download my free schools and communities guide. And if you like this content, I'm getting ready to post future videos on 55 plus communities out there to enlighten people on what's out there in terms of active communities, those that offer a lot of amenities and pickleball and that sort of thing. So if you like that content, you might want to subscribe. Peace out.